Have you noticed something strange about your memory? You forget what you studied yesterday, but you clearly remember things from childhood. Your first bicycle, your first school, your first victory. Why does the brain remember some things for years, but forget others within hours? To understand this, we must first understand how memory actually works inside the brain. Think about this. You might watch 20 or 30 short videos in a row, but can you remember what the fourth video was? Most people cannot, because that information never really entered memory. Your brain saw it, your brain heard it, but it never stored it deeply. And this tells us something important. Memory does not work the way most people think. Remember this. Memory is not magic. Memory follows a system. Whenever you see something, hear something, or read something, your brain processes that information in 3 stages. First comes encoding, then comes storage, and finally comes retrieval. If any one of these stages fails, the memory disappears. Let's start with the first stage, encoding. Encoding means converting information into a form the brain can store. For example, when you look at a pen, your brain does not store the pen exactly as it is. Instead, the brain converts that image into neural signals. These signals travel between neurons, and the information becomes encoded inside the brain. Now here is something fascinating. Your brain does not store memories in one single location. Instead, memories are stored across large networks of neurons, millions of connections working together. Think of it like a giant web. Information spreads across this network, and the stronger the connections become, the stronger the memory becomes. Now here comes one of the brain's most powerful memory tricks. It is called chunking. Chunking means breaking large information into smaller, meaningful pieces. Your brain does this automatically, without you even realizing it. And this simple trick allows your brain to remember much more information. Think about how people say a phone number. Very rarely do they say all 10 digits continuously. Instead, they say it in groups. For example, 9529 77 8866. Why? Because your brain stores the information in chunks. And when the chunks match the stored pattern, recall becomes easy. Now imagine something interesting. Someone asks you to repeat the same phone number, but in different groups. Instead of 2 or 3 digits, they suddenly ask for random combinations. Most people get confused. Why? Because you are forcing the brain to break its stored pattern, and the brain prefers recalling information in the same structure it stored it. Now remember this carefully. Many students think learning means collecting more material, more books, more notes, more lectures, but the brain works differently. Reading one book many times often builds stronger memory than reading 10 books only once, because repetition strengthens the neural connections. This is why information overload is dangerous. Today, students collect notes from everywhere: PDFs, online lectures, social media, different teachers, different explanations. But remember this: if information enters the brain in a scattered way, it becomes difficult to store and retrieve. Your brain prefers organized repetition, not endless variety. Here is something extremely important. For memory to become strong, information must enter the brain continuously. When you read a chapter from start to finish, your brain builds a connected understanding. But when information arrives in broken pieces, the brain struggles to organize it. And this is exactly what modern digital habits are doing to our attention. Now think about how short videos work. Every few seconds, a completely new topic appears. A joke, a cooking tip, a motivational quote, a random fact. Your brain barely begins processing one idea before the next idea arrives. This prevents the brain from forming deep memory connections. Ask yourself this question. If you watched 20 short videos today, can you remember the fourth one? Most people cannot, because the brain never had enough time to encode the information. It entered the senses, but it never reached real memory storage. Encoding can also fail because of interruptions. Imagine you are reading a page. Your brain starts converting that information into memory, but suddenly, a notification appears. You check your phone. In that moment, the encoding process breaks, and the brain must start again from the beginning. Remember this. Your brain builds strong memory when it receives focused attention. When you remove distractions, the brain can encode information properly. And once encoding becomes strong, storage becomes stronger, which means retrieval becomes easier. Focus is not just about productivity. Focus is the foundation of memory. Now here is a powerful memory secret. The brain remembers better when information enters through multiple channels. Reading alone helps, but reading plus speaking helps more. And reading, speaking, and visualizing the idea helps even more. This is sometimes called double coding or triple coding. The more pathways the brain uses, the stronger the memory becomes. Imagine two students studying the same topic. The first student only reads silently. The second student reads, explains the idea aloud, and writes notes. Both students spent the same time studying, but the second student's brain received 3 learning signals instead of 1, and that makes memory far stronger. This is also why good teachers explain the same idea in different ways. First they tell a story, then they draw a diagram, then they write key points on the board, then students write the notes themselves. It may look repetitive, but every repetition strengthens encoding inside the brain. Imagination also plays a powerful role in memory. When you imagine what you are studying, the brain treats the information as more meaningful. Instead of storing words only, the brain stores images and experiences, and visual memories are often easier to recall later. When information enters the brain repeatedly, neural connections become stronger, encoding improves, storage becomes stable, and the brain begins forming long-term memory pathways. But there is something else the brain needs for strong storage, something many students ignore, and that is sleep and revision. Now remember something very important. Reading once is rarely enough. Your brain strengthens memory through revision. Each time you review the same idea, the neural connections become stronger. Think of it like walking on the same path again and again. The more you walk the path, the clearer the road becomes, and the brain remembers that path more easily. Sleep plays a powerful role in memory. When you sleep, your brain begins organizing the information you learned during the day. Neural connections become stabilized. Proteins that strengthen memory connections are formed. This process is called memory consolidation. Without proper sleep, even well-studied information can become unstable. Now we arrive at the third stage of memory, retrieval. Retrieval means bringing stored information back into awareness. When you answer a question in an exam, or recall a fact during a conversation, your brain is retrieving information. And the faster the brain retrieves information, the stronger the memory appears. Think about a teacher who has taught the same subject for many years. They do not need to look at notes every time. Information comes to their mind almost instantly. Why? Because the brain has retrieved the same knowledge thousands of times. Repeated retrieval strengthens the neural pathway, and eventually the information becomes effortless to recall. But retrieval also depends on something else, your brain's overall condition. If you are stressed, sleep-deprived, or constantly distracted, retrieval becomes slower and harder. But when the brain is healthy, rested, and focused, memory recall becomes much easier. Your brain works best when your body and mind are balanced. Now that we understand encoding, storage, and retrieval, there is another important question. What kinds of memory does the brain actually have? Scientists generally divide human memory into 3 main types: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Each of these plays a different role in how the brain processes information. The first type is sensory memory. This is the shortest memory your brain has. It comes directly from your senses. What you see, what you hear, what you touch, what you smell. Most sensory memories last only a fraction of a second before disappearing, unless your brain decides the information is important. Next comes short-term memory. Short-term memory temporarily holds information for a short time, usually for only a few seconds, and it has limited capacity. Your brain can typically hold about 5 to 9 pieces of information at once. If the information is not repeated or rehearsed, it quickly disappears. Finally, we reach long-term memory. This is where information can stay for years, sometimes for an entire lifetime. Long-term memory stores different kinds of knowledge, life experiences, learned facts, and skills that become automatic with practice. The stronger the encoding and repetition, the more likely information will reach long-term memory. Let's quickly summarize what we learned. Memory works in 3 stages: encoding, storage, and retrieval. Strong focus improves encoding, revision strengthens storage, and repeated recall improves retrieval. Remember this: your brain is capable of powerful memory, but it needs the right habits to work properly. If you found this explanation helpful, please like the video, share it with someone who is struggling with memory, and subscribe for more science-based learning videos.